Breaking overnight, a 58-year-old gunman opens fire in a crowded movie theater in Louisiana, killing 2 people, wounding 9 others before taking his own life.
It's a pretty horrific scene.
One that could have been much worse if not for one woman's brave actions.
Even though she was shot in the leg, she had the presence of mind to pull the fire alarm to help save other lives.
We'll have the latest on the heroes, the victims, and what police are saying about the shooter as the investigation unfolds today, Friday, July 24th, 2015.
From NBC News, this is a special edition of Today, Louisiana Theater Shooting with Matt Lauer and Savannah Guthrie, live from Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Today on this Friday morning. It seems another week, another tragic mass shooting, this time in Louisiana. We're going to have much more on this in just a second.
And we're following another big story, the administration's high-stakes nuclear agreement with Iran. And in our studio this morning, exclusively, Secretary of State John Kerry was in Washington yesterday selling the deal. He'll sit down with Matt in just a few moments.
Let's get back to Louisiana. Here's the latest. The gunman there identified as a 58-year-old white man with a criminal history. Witnesses say he stood up about 20 minutes into a showing of the movie Trainwreck. He pulled out a handgun and then he started firing. 2
people were killed, at least 9 others wounded, their ages ranging from the late teens to their 60s. And overnight, this investigation had to be put on hold briefly. The bomb squad was called in when an officer saw something suspicious inside the gunman's car.
We're going to be talking to the police and 2 people who were at that theater complex in just a moment. But let's begin with NBC's John Yang in Lafayette. John, good morning. What can you tell us?
Good morning, Matt. Witnesses and people in the theater said when it all started, they thought it might have been a firecracker, but it was shooting. And when the shooting was over, 2 people were dead, 9 wounded. But this morning, amid all the tales of terror and tragedy, there are also tales of heroism. This morning, police are investigating why a lone shooter opened fire Thursday night in a movie theater in Lafayette, Louisiana, killing 2 people, injuring 9 others before turning the gun and killing himself. Police say the gunman is a 58-year-old white man who used a handgun, opening fire about 20 minutes into the 7 p.m. showing of Trainwreck at the Grand Theater, 50 miles southwest of Baton Rouge. About 100 people were inside the theater. The victims' ages range from the teens to the late 60s. Witnesses described the moments the gunfire erupted.
It wasn't long into the movie, and then all of a sudden we heard a gunshot. A lot of people thought it was part of the movie at first, because there was a little pause between the first and the second one. But as soon as the second one happened, I mean, it was like panic. Everybody just started climbing over seats and running.
Police say they don't know the shooter's motive, but believe he was acting alone. Locating what they believe is the gunman's car, they called in the bomb squad after suspicious items were seen inside.
That's what everybody is wondering. Why would this guy come here to this theater and just start randomly shooting people? It's too early to have any of those answers yet.
Police haven't released the name of the shooter or the victims. Family members confirming to NBC News 2 teachers, Alistair Martin and Jenna Lenyon Moe, were being treated at the hospital. Governor Bobby Jindal praised the actions of Martin and Moe, saying they performed what he called acts of heroism, shielding one another from the gunfire and then pulling the fire alarm.
Today is a day that not only angers but also saddens all of us. This should never happen anywhere, but you certainly never imagined. We never imagined what happened in Louisiana.
Overnight, Amy Schumer, the star of Trainwreck, responded to the shooting, tweeting, "My heart is broken and all my thoughts and prayers are with everyone in Louisiana." Investigators are looking into seeing if there are any connections between the shooter and the victims, anything in his background as they try to figure out why this happened. Matt.
All right, John Yang. John, thank you very much. Again, officials say about 100 people were inside that movie theater at the time of the shooting, many more in the movie complex. 2 of them are with us now, Jalen Furnell and Kiefer Sanders. Gentlemen, good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
It's supposed to be a quiet night out at the movies. How are you both doing?
No, I'm doing all right. How about you guys?
Well, we're fine. You were actually in the theater across the hallway from the theater where the shooting took place. Did you hear shots? How did you know this was going on?
I was sitting more towards the middle of the theater. I didn't actually hear any gunshots, but right whenever the movie began that we were watching, the alarm system went off and a PA announcer came over saying to evacuate through the nearest exit immediately.
And Jalen, when you evacuated, did you find yourself in that shared hallway where the people were streaming out of the theater where the shooting actually occurred?
No, sir. They actually told us to evacuate to the nearest exit, and our nearest exit led us outside.
Did you see people coming out of that theater?
Yes, sir.
And Jalen, had you heard any shots?
Yes, sir, I did hear shots.
How long did they last?
Well, it was about, I heard 3 pops, and then following those 3 pops, about 10, 15 seconds later, that's when, like he said, the sirens went off, and then the PA system had said for everyone to evacuate the building.
It's been reported that this shooter tried to leave the theater with the wave of people who were fleeing from him, then saw police in the hallway, turned around, went back inside, and that's when he took his own life. Did you hear that final gunshot?
Possibly. While we were outside the building, that's when I was closer to the building, and I did hear a bunch of gunshots, so any of those gunshots could have been him taking his life.
Kiefer, this tragically is not the first time something like this has happened. We think back to 2012, the shooting out in Aurora, Colorado. Was something like this ever in the back of your mind going to a movie theater, the fear of some kind of an event like this?
No, sir, not at all. I normally don't go to the movie theaters very often. It's the first time I'm going in a while. And it was definitely one of the last things I expected. But I was with my brother and a friend, and whenever the PA alarm went off, that was the first thing I said. It was just, I had an odd feeling. I said, I feel like there was a shooting or something. We need to exit immediately, and we hurry up and got out.
Jalen, what about you? Had anything like this ever crossed your mind going into a crowded room, a building, or a movie theater?
Not at all. I've never experienced anything like this before, so that was the last thing I thought would happen in my mind when my friends texted me and said, hey, let's go to the movies.
Were you able to see any of the people who were brought out, the injured? We know 3 people are dead, including the shooter. Were you able to see any of the others who were wounded in this?
I didn't see any brought out from the theater except for one. When we evacuated the theater, there was a young female, or middle-aged female, lying down. She was shot in her leg, and there was blood, and she was on the curb. And when they asked her what happened, she had said that she was shot inside the theater, and some guys had picked her up and brought her outside and put her on the curb.
Well, we're happy you two are all right. Jalen Furnell and Kiefer Sanders. Guys, thanks very much for talking this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
There are still so many questions this morning, including the identity of the gunman. Let's turn to NBC News analyst Sean Henry, the former executive assistant director of the FBI. Sean, good morning to you. And it is the early hours of this investigation. Where do you think investigators are focused right now?
You know, Savannah, I think it starts with the motivation. Why did this occur? Who's this man? What was the reason for him walking into a crowded theater, opening up fire indiscriminately without any clear target? That's going to be what investigators are looking at. They're going to go through his social media. They're going to look at his electronic devices. They certainly, by now, have actually already executed a search warrant, I imagine, on his residence, his vehicle. They're talking to co-workers, family members, etc.
We have so little to go on right now. We just know, according to authorities, he's a 58-year-old man, a white man. It isn't exactly the profile of the mass shooting that we've seen in recent years of a young man. Do you make anything of the fact of his older age?
You know, Savannah, again, it comes down to his motivation. Is this somebody who, I mean, I'm purely speculating. Who knows what caused this? But is he going through some marital problem, and his ex-wife or spouse is involved with somebody at the movies? Until you actually understand what the motivation is, you're not going to be able to assess specific issues like his age and how that may have influenced this. This is going to be a long investigation over the next couple of weeks. They're at the very early stages, and investigators are really just searching for clues at this point. point to give them a head start on where to continue to focus.
Yeah, these are the early hours for sure. Sean Henry, always good to have you here. Thank you so much. We are going to have a lot more from Louisiana this morning, more about the victims, the gunman, and the investigation. We expect a news conference in a bit, and we will have a live interview with Governor Bobby Jindal. For now, though, I'll send it over to Matt.